Let the truth be told.
Shalom and much love to everybody out there on the chat and all those that are listening live and all those that will listen in the time to come. It's time for another show of Let the Truth Be Told on Malak's Corner. Again, we have merged both podcasts together, so we are involved with we're utilizing the Let the Truth Be Told podcast onto the Malak's Corner platform. So we're just making it all conducive, so there's no confusion about what's going on. So all praise be to the Most High. Thank you for everyone coming in, and I'd like to say thank you to my panel that's coming in, that's here today as well. And let me give a shout out to everyone that has logged in, that's in the comments, that's in the chat. All praise be to the Most High. Thank you for joining in. And to my panel, Earth Healing Angel, how you doing? And our sister Ahavia Barak, how you doing?
Sorry, I just got my mic unmuted. I'm good. Go ahead,
All
Avia.
praises. All praises.
Praises.
Ahavia, how you
So much for
doing?
asking. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for asking. How's everyone else?
Oh, everyone's doing well. Thank you for being here. It's another day that we can live to tell about it, to make our connection with the Almighty, with the I am in us. All praises. And how you doing, my brother Joshua? How's everything on your end?
Hallelujah. You know what I'm saying? All praise to the Most High, Him alone. I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right.
All praise, all praise. You know, the day that we have before us is another day that we can take our footsteps in the right direction, and again recognize the divine within. You know, so that's very important for us to start to recognize that kind of thing. And so as we jump into our podcast today, there's a lot of things going on controversially in the United States right now concerning citizenship and concerning what has been typecast inside of social media and on all platforms. Um, the Trump versus Barbara court case. They had this court case, I believe that was in earlier April or May. I think it was earlier April. But in June, they're going to do their final deliberation. And it's about the 14th Amendment. And so they're speaking on whether or not birthright citizenship is lawful. So we're going to take a dive into that. But as I titled this particular podcast, it's called the 14th Amendment Citizenship. Is it a benefit or a curse for the so-called African American? And that's the perspective that we're going to talk about that on. Is it a benefit or a curse? And when we look at the word citizenship in itself, they like to liken it differently from subject, but actually it's the same. When you're a citizen of any particular country or body of government or body politic, you are a servant to that body politic or subservient to its rulership. And they like to dress it up in the United States and say, well, it's the government of the people, by the people, for the people. Well, if that was the case, how can the government rule of law overshadow the wants and desires of the people? So we're going to take a look at all of that, family. We're going to take a microscopic look. We're going to scuba dive into the subject matter. And, the one question that I ask people, the scripture says, well, we know in the word it says you can't serve two masters, whether that's in the new book or in the Tanakh or Torah. You can't serve two masters, and whether or not it's in either one, that's absolutely true. You can't have two supervisors at the same time. You can't have two managers at the same time. You can't have two mother and father sets of mothers and fathers at the same time dictating your movement. So when we are subjects and servants to a particular government, when we are citizens to a particular government, how can you also be subject to the Almighty? How can you be subject to the great, to that perspective according to our former nation, the nation of Yasharala? You can't. You can't be, they talk about dual citizenship, but there's going to be one that's superior, and that's the one where you reside at. So when we look at that from that perspective, that's why you always hear me say we have to come out of looking at the scriptures from a religious or doctrinal point of view, but now based upon nation. And when we look at it like that, we know that our ancestors broke the covenant with the Almighty in relation to our national status as Yasharala. Therefore, we were subject to the curses and spread out throughout the four corners of the earth and entered to other forms of government. The Almighty said, you're going to serve your enemies and their gods. So how can you serve your enemy and their gods and serve the Almighty in his nation and his form of government? You can't. We try to do that under the platform of religion and or churchism. That's why the government has a medium called the separation of church and state. Although you have your right to practice your religion, there's a separate rulership between state government and your belief. And because we caught up into belief, we are wrapped into miseducation, misawareness of what it means to be of the nation of Yasharala. We take it to the perspective of only religion. So, or according to religion, we're going to serve the Almighty, but according to the state, we're going to serve the law of the land, right? At one point, we were in our own land with our own laws. Now you in somebody else's land serving their laws. So it's important for us to recognize that and let the truth be told about that and stop living this dream as though you serving the Almighty when you're really serving a government that you're answering to. So before we get into the videos, I'm going to ask my panel what's their thoughts about this subject. Earth Hill and Angel, what's your thoughts about that?
There's so many different layers to this whole thing. I've gone through all the videos you've sent, and it was a lot of aha moments. It was a lot of stuff that really hit me to the core, how diabolical all of this is. There was one part of me that felt emotional, like, wow, with all of this stuff going on with the amendment, it's just an illusion. And it's almost like you feel naked and defenseless out here because we don't even have a nation to go to until Yah is done with this captivity, until our punishment is over. And so it's between holding faith and a little part of also feeling nervous, but we know those of us who hold on to Yah, there's always a way out with Him delivering us. And we have to hold that and just look to Him. And even if we have to go through, we're going through our punishment, and in the end, Yasharal is still going to win with Yah on our side. So that's what I pretty much have to say about it right now. Thank you.
Hallelujah. You're welcome.
Hallelujah.
All praise. Thank you for your addition. And my beloved sister Javier, what's your take on what we're discussing today?
Um, Similar to Earth, when I was going through some of the information, there were a lot of emotional moments, and um, you just coming to see how really we've lost, because of our disobedience, what we really lost as a nation. Being on the yacht. I mean, His mercy is still with us, and we are so grateful to have this privilege of still being able to call on Him and to seek Him. But really, we really, truly, we have to get back to seeking the Most High and coming back, you know, following His leadership, and to come back into that status where we are as a nation. Because right now we are literally like this gathering is like nomads. We're just tossed around. You know, there's nothing. We're like trying to cling to other people's things. It doesn't fit us. That's not our core, how we were built. So when you try to like put on what is not of you, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna fit. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Hallelujah. Unbeknownst to us, what we have been doing is fitting into characterization. This form of government, the world abroad, they've created characters. They created roles, just like in a movie. And we play into each role and we fall into character all the time. The problem is that we don't realize we in character, that we're playing a role. For example, you got your doctors, you got your lawyers, you got your teachers, you got your politicians. And when you look at people that carry that title, or you got your police officers, no matter what title it is, you got your drug dealers, you got your pimps, you got your hustlers. They carry these titles. And when they carry those titles, they fit into the dynamic of the role that's conducive to the title that they're playing. So when you hear a drug dealer speak, he's not talking like a politician most of the time. Sometimes they mix the two, because we can talk about how politics and crime do go hand in hand, but the point that I'm making is that these roles that we are given based upon the titles that we're in, we fall in alignment to it. Likewise, the title and role of a citizen, we fall right in alignment with it. My brother, Joshua, what's your thoughts about today's subject matter?
Kind of want to latch on to what the sister Avaya has said. I mean, that was right on point. Um, like the Constitution. I mean, I understand it's I mean, what's you got to claim your status and all that, but I mean, throughout times, this ain't nothing new. This ain't nothing new under the sun. You know what it remind me of, Elder? It remind me of Daniel. Daniel, I want to say 6 and I want to say 7 or 6 is 25. One of them is one of the chapters where it talks about saying is wearing out the saints. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
these laws, they come up with, man, they keep on changing, just like how saying man changed time, and and I don't want to get on the subject, get off the subject, but it's just the simple fact that these people, man, they're crafty, they're very very crafty, and I know saying you got to apply for it and saying claim your status, but I mean it's more. I would see it be more efficient. Just like I agree with the sister Avia. She made a good point. Like I believe that when we all gather ourselves together and come as one, that's when we'll have a a better status. That's just my take on it.
Hallelujah. You're absolutely right. The panel was 100% correct in everything the panel said. And what you said, Brother Joshua, in ending your statement, that when we come together as one, that's why you always hear the words that leave from our lips is go out there and declare your heritage. Put the name of salvation, the name of the nation upon you in man's system. That's how we gather ourselves together. O nation not desired. You gather yourselves together by declaring your nationality, being on one accord. We on several different chords today. We got brothers and sisters that say that they Moors, brothers and sisters that say that they're this and they're that. They're calling religion also a status. Those that they'll say that they're Christian, they'll say that they're Muslim, they'll say all of those things. And we look at those things, and I would say transparently as a nation, but this it's not. Religion is not the same thing as a nation. That's one of the biggest mistakes that we make. Uh, and with that being said, family, I'm gonna go ahead and play a video to set the tone for the videos that we're going to watch. And this one is going to talk about just the definition of citizenship and what it means in relation to the United States and maybe also abroad. So let's pay attention to what's being said.
If you were born in the United States, are you automatically a citizen? For more than 150 years, the answer has generally been yes. It's a principle known as birthright citizenship, and it's been the law of the land for generations. But now, the Supreme Court is being asked to decide.
I'm going to pause this for a second. They spoke about birthright citizenship. Before we continue with the video, our people need to know the difference between rights and privileges. Rights and privileges. Rights are defined as inalienable, meaning that you have a right to breathe, you have a right to talk, a right to eat. You have a right to marry, you have a right to travel, you have a right to all the elements on the earth. Those are rights that are supposedly unabridged by statutes and laws. Now, privileges are different. To show you the difference in how they can be confused. You have a right to travel. That means you have a right to move about. But when you get a license, then what you just did is accepted a privilege to drive on, or what we say drive or move about on highways, which is in commerce, which is a whole nother subject matter that I'll discuss. But you know that you're in commerce because you have to apply for a license, you have to pay for a license, you have to follow the laws, you have to abide by the laws when you're moving about. That's called commerce. If you don't follow the laws when you're moving about, then you get ticketed, or you can get the privilege of having a license revoked. You can't get your right to breathe revoked unless somebody take you out. They unalive you. That's something totally different that, in reference to that. But the difference between rights and privileges, we must understand. And sometimes what we do, we take our right and we put it in position to become a privilege. To give you a prime example on how we do that, you have a right, a man and a woman has a right to marry, whether you believe in a man having more than one wife or you're marrying just one wife. You have a right to marry, right? But how do you turn that right into a privilege? You turn it into a privilege when you go and you apply for a license. When you apply for a license to marry, what happens is that's no longer a two-party marriage. That's a three-party marriage. It's you, your wife, and the state that you applied the license, got the license for. And when you get that license, guess who's the superior party in that relationship? It's the state. Guess who, when you have children out of those two come together, or how many come together, when you have children, guess what? You go get birth certificates and social security numbers. What happens then? Your children become wards of the state. So if the state is not in agreement with how you function your house, they can take your children. So having children is a right. It's not a privilege, but we make it a privilege when we take our rights and put it in a system of privilege. I'm gonna continue with the video.
Whether a president can limit birthright citizenship through an executive order, or, as the Trump administration argues, enforce what it says is the Constitution's original meaning. In 1868, after the Civil War, the 14th Amendment was added to the Constitution. It says that all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. This amendment was written specifically to overturn the Dred Scott decision, which had denied citizenship to Black Americans. On his first day back in office in January 2025, President Trump signed an executive order declaring that children born in the U.S. to parents who are neither citizens nor lawful permanent residents would not automatically become citizens. Federal courts immediately blocked the order. Now, the Supreme Court will hear the case, Trump v. Barbara, on April 1st, 2026. Everything hinges on 5 words in the 14th Amendment: subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Those who support the executive...
I got to pause again. Citizenship is those that are born right, their birthright citizenship. Those who are born in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Notice it said subject. I talked about subjects and citizenship earlier. Subject to the jurisdiction. So when you say that when you are a citizen, you are subject to the jurisdiction of the body politic or body government. Just wanted to give you a little bit more on what was said as we're listening.
Order argue that phrase was never meant to cover everyone born on U.S. soil. They say it requires complete allegiance to the United States, not just physical presence by someone who came here illegally or temporarily on a tourist or student visa. On the other side, opponents of the executive order say this interpretation flatly contradicts the Constitution's text, its history, and more than a century of settled law. The 14th Amendment was written in sweeping, deliberate language. All persons born here, precisely to prevent future governments from denying citizenship based on who a person's parents were. And regardless, whether Congress could pass a law redefining the boundaries of birthright citizenship is a very different question from whether a president, acting alone, can reinterpret the Constitution with the stroke of a pen. The Supreme Court is expected to issue a ruling by summer 2026. Whatever it decides, the outcome will reshape one of the most fundamental questions in American law. What does it mean to be born in the United States? And who counts as a citizen?
Very interesting information, family. You know, as we look at birthright citizenship and what that means, you know, it's kind of a forked tongue, you know, because when you are a citizen, then you are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And we have fought to become citizens in a land or in a government that we were never saw as being on equal status as the European, the equal status as whites in this country. But we fought for, I want you to hear me, we fought to be included in a system that was going to be lord over us as citizens, lord over us as subjects. And we still fight for that position today. And we call it a right, but it's a privilege that can be taken, a privilege that comes with the caveats of being subservient to, no matter how intrusive the law is, you subservient to it. So the point of bringing that out is, how can one be under the banner of the Almighty's government and also at the same time being subject as citizens to the United States, or subject as citizens to whatever country that you're within? How can that be? I'm going to play another video, family, and then we're going to open up for a discussion on the panel as well. This is a brother that's speaking about citizenship also, and what it means in this country. If I can get it to play.
And all this other mess, right? But I need y'all to understand, y'all distracted right now by the NBA playoffs and all this other mess, right? But I need y'all to really pay attention to, just in case just in case now, that the Supreme Court rule in favor for the Trump administration coming up in a ruling, maybe the end of June, beginning of July. It's called Trump versus Barbara. Okay, that's birthright citizenship case. If Trump wins, your birthright citizenship will be severed, meaning your little birth certificate, your little ID, and your little social security card means nothing. It will mean absolutely nothing. You will have to prove your birthright through blood, your ancestral lineage. Because right now you're on the just solely right of the soil. Meaning if you're born here, you know, you become a citizen. You got your little birth certificate, you got the social, you got your ID. You're a citizen automatically. Most people, right? Okay. If they switch it to just sanguineous, right of blood, you got to prove your ancestry here. So, what's your nationality? You see they stripping your voting rights, right? Okay. You see they got rid of the DEA stuff, right? Okay. All this affirmative action, they stripping everything away from you, right? Your benefits, your health, right? They've been stripping everything. Gas prices high. You just got a lot of pressure on you, right? Okay. I guess y'all not familiar with the Nuremberg law, huh? You know, Nazis against the Jews, how they got them to be stateless person. They went from just sanguineous instead of just solely. Sounds familiar, don't it? So y'all better pay attention to the Supreme Court case that's supposed to be announced end of June, beginning of July, somewhere in there. If the Supreme Court favors Trump, you better declare your nationality. You better know who you are. Yeah, your nationality. A United States citizen, Negro, colored, African American, Black is not a nationality. Yeah.
You know, he said a lot. He said a mouthful, family. The point is, though, that some of us are missing, and even I think he is, in relation to what he's speaking on, is our ancestry doesn't start and stop here, family. Our ancestry is ancient. Our ancestry far exceeds our ancestors that were off the plantation over here in the United States and in the Caribbean. Our ancestry goes way back. Our ancestry goes to the points where you hear me always expressing, we are Yasharala. You have every right to go and declare your ethnicity and your nationality and place the name upon you that shows forth that you are a part of a nation that was once functional as any other nation. As you always hear me say, the I am in us, the connection with the Most High Almighty in us. When we make that connection, then we flow. Our energy flow is one with the I am. And when it's one with the I am, and we're doing that which is required to declare ourselves independently, and we do it jointly, we blow the horn, then watch the great I am in unison with all of us as one declare the nation, declare us as separate. We can come out of being subject to this citizenship. The word of the Almighty says, I believe it's in Yirmiyahu, break every yoke. How do you break every yoke? It's not talking about religious practices and things of that nature. The strength that you have is, as our beloved sister Javier said, and our sister Earth Healer Angel said, and also our brother said, is our brother Joshua said, is our unification. But our unification is not a religious walk. Our unification is declaring who we are. You see, the Chinese are unified, the Russians are unified, the Arabs are unified. Every other ethnicity that even has presence in the United States are unified. But guess what? We're not. We're not unified. we're going in several different directions, arguing with each other about who we are and fighting to be citizens in a country and in a nation that we it was never for us. We wasn't brought here to get comfortable, family. We was brought here for punishment so that we can grow from our lower vibration to a higher vibration. Grow from being a having a terrestrial mind to a celestial connection. And with that being said, I'm going to open it up to the panel. What's your thoughts, Earth Healing Angel?
I'm trying to unmute.
There you go. We got you.
Is it unmuted?
Yep, it's
Okay.
unmuted.
Yes, you said a mouthful there. Wow. I'm just like lost for words because this is a lot to process. I like that the area of the spirituality of we were placed here to go to a higher vibration, but we're missing the point. We're missing, it's like, are we transforming into better human beings, to better spiritual beings through this chastisement, this boot or belt to tushy Abaya is doing, or is it making us even worse, like more stubborn, more hard headed? You know, everyone, and you're right, traveling and going to different places, even other foreigners, when they come into these other countries we've been living in, they live tight together. When we travel and meet some of our people abroad, it's like you don't even want to deal with some of them because of the low vibrational behaviors, not on the same accord. Like, it's truly a curse when we can't even agree. We look for petty things to fight about when there's bigger stuff going on around us, such as what we're discussing now. And also, we should really be focused. You know, if we were at that place, Elder, where we were putting in the work, really elevating our vibrations, our frequency, we wouldn't be fighting and doing all of this nonsense and fighting whose doctrine is right and who's not. We'll all be on the same frequency vibration, under the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. It wouldn't be no second guessing. You will get it immediately, because I can't exactly remember where the scripture is. Probably one of you brothers would know, where it says, "Yeah, He reveals revelation unto the meek, the humble." That's in Sirach. I can't remember which chapter and verse. And so I love that, what you said. Can you imagine if we were to get on that high vibrational frequency collectively? We won't have all of this mess. So, yeah, that's my take.
Hallelujah. All praise. Thank you. Thank you, Earth. And we have our sister Ahavia. Barack, what's your thoughts?
Yes, just in agreement with what Earth said regarding the all being on the same frequency, the same um, spiritual elevation. Like, I have images of literally us united as a people, moving as one. Like, just the connection, the mindset, the progress that could happen, not just from the spiritual, but also translated into the physical when we unite as one. Like throughout history, you see when a unification happens, the things that takes place, huge things get built, the accomplishments that we do. If we were all on the same page, and on top of that, in Yah,
Absolutely.
so being one in Yah, the other nations will look, because they're saying, look at how they're moving, look at how how they're progressing. It's we stand out, and that's the place we need to get back to. Instead of this, oh, my way or your way, or I agree with this or I don't agree with, like, yes, there is disagreements, but this is where we reason together, when you're on the same mindset, the same frequency, and yeah, you know how to reason together rather than this infighting and division. And we need to come out
Exactly.
of that mindset.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right, beloved. All praises. And we unify when we come together. We have to show cause of unification. How do you show cause of unification if you can't come together expressly as one people? And I like this comment that our brother Issachar said. He says, citizens, a native or nationalized member of a nation or political community who owes allegiance to its government and is entitled to the full civil rights and protections. So, absolutely, that's what it is. And um, civil rights, though, we have to understand, we have to understand civil rights. How did that term come up with? I'm gonna speak about that just a little bit. You have admiralty or maritime law, right? And within those laws, that's law at sea. Then you have a law, you have criminal law. You have that law where if you abuse somebody's body or property, then that's a law in itself. But when you got civil laws don't require injury to somebody's person or injury to somebody's property, but they use civil law to bring you subject to what they agree upon to be law itself, regardless if you hurt someone. Here's what I'm speaking on. Let's say down the street it says it's 25 miles an hour and you're driving, right? But you decide to go 30 or 35. You're going 30 in a 25. Now, according to the statute under these civil laws, you could be ticketed. But did you injure somebody? If you didn't have an accident, if you didn't hit somebody's property, you didn't injure anybody's person, and you didn't injure anybody's property, there is no injured party. But what they'll deliberate in court and say the injured party is the municipality. Well, how can a municipality be injured when it's not living and breathing in the sense of flesh and blood? It's only living and breathing as a form of artificial intelligence because they brought life to the municipality through its government, just like corporations. So when we're dealing with civil laws, we have to realize what kind of quagmire we've been placed in as we deal with the civil aspects of law. But that's another conversation for another day. We can go deep into that as well. My brother Joshua, what's your take on the videos that we've been watching so far?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I just had to unmute my mic.
No problem.
It's no different from what you got. I mean, you said a whole lot. Um, what pointed. I mean, what reached out to me was basically about like that Barber case that's coming up, man. I mean, it really doesn't bother me, to be honest. I mean, these people, man, like it goes back to Daniel 7:25. Can we read that real quick? Is it possible we can read that real quick, Elder? If
Hold on, let me pull it up so I can share it on the screen, so that everybody can see it. Let me grab that. And you said you wanted to go to Daniel, what chapter?
I would want to go to saying chapter 7.
Daniel's chapter 7.
Yes, sir. And
Okay,
read
hold
verse
on.
25.
Hold on 1 second. Let me share that screen so everybody can see that. Daniel chapter 7, and you want to go to verse 25, correct?
Right, and then saying after that, can you saying get one more verse if that wouldn't be too much. Get Genesis 49:1 after that.
Okay. All right. We had Daniel chapter 7, and you said verse 25.
Yes, sir.
All right. And so verse 25 reads as follows. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given unto his hand until a time, times, and a dividing of time.
See, I mean, this been going on over and over and over again. Like how they make legislation and how these, saying Democrat and Republicans, man, they're both, man. Hey, for me, they're the enemy to me because all they're trying to do is, saying compromise. And I mean, they're two different birds, but they're from the same flock, I guess. That's how I see it. And this is even before I was in the truth. I know about, I don't know that much, but I know enough that, saying these people design it this way so they can keep us, saying in control, basically. Like how you shout out to the brother, saying the brother Gabar. I know he don't go by that, saying in the chat no more, but shout out to the brother, said I saw a comment he made on the chat, saying beyond myself, Israel. He said that, saying and this is funny, a lot of people don't, saying take this into consideration when he was talking about, like you can own a car, but saying once you own the car, you got to register it or it's illegal to drive. They put these things just like how you put, saying that instance of, like what civil law is and what a criminal, law is, according to saying of your privilege. Because that's what I consider driving. It's a privilege.
Right. And
it's a privilege.
It is. You see how they intertwine it. You got a right to travel, but domestically and commercially, when you get a license, what happens is there's certain terms, family. The Almighty says death and life is in the power of the tongue. One day we're going to believe the word of the Almighty and live by it. But death and life is in the power of the tongue. There is certain powers and spells in the words that we use. Think about it. We spell words phonetically. We spell them. But that word spell, S-P-E-L-L, comes from the root spell, S-P-E-L, which is a divination practice of casting energy over a person. You don't realize that every word that you speak, every word that you say is a spell, whether it's a good spell or a bad spell, depends on the usage and depends on the receiver that's receiving the word that you spoke. So for example, a person could say, I love you to someone, and that triggers in the conscious of the other person their emotional state. That's a spell driving your emotion. Okay. Whether it's good or bad, that depends. And not to harp on that too much, but I want you to understand word usage drives the emotional state. It drives how you function. So, for example, when you use certain words like automobile, there's a difference between automobile and vehicle. If you notice at any DMV, at any Secretary of State office, they use vehicle, motor vehicle. Why? Because when you declare your automobile as a motor vehicle, then you just put it under the jurisdiction of commerce. Okay? These words carry so much meaning beyond the layman. But what they tell you when you get into court and you're arguing, and you're not aware of certain things, they will say ignorance of the law is no excuse. Your ignorance does not justify or compel a court or a body politic to move according to how you see it. especially if you are citizens of that particular body politic. That means you under their jurisdiction. Okay? So my question to our people, why do we even care about what Trump is doing in relation to this whole 14th Amendment? That was a second-class citizenship in itself. And when we talk about laws of the land, this land is not ours. Now that's another big debatable. I'm not really. It's not really no debate, but there's a lot of propaganda and ambiguity out here that's causing our people to believe that this land is ours. It's not. It's not. And they'll say, well, this was our original land, where they talk about the Mississippi River and Memphis and all of that and Utah and all this kind of stuff, right? Again, family, I say this several times. Abraham had two sons. He had Isaac or Isaac, right? And he had Ishmael. Ishmael is the progenitor and the continuation of the Chaldean and Arabic people, who are Hebrew as well, just as we are. We just come through Isaac or Isaac down to Yaakov, and we became Yasharallah, or children of Yasharallah, and adopted into the covenant of the Almighty, making us a nation. But the point is that if the United States was originally our land, guess who else would be declaring that same thing? The Arabic or the Chaldean, which is one and the same, because we lived in close proximity of them. Why isn't it that the Arab or Chaldean is not claiming the United States is our land? It is our land. We talked about this on another podcast, so I'm not going to really get into depth in that. I just want to put that into your ears. But sorry, Brother Joshua, go ahead and finish what you were saying. I just had to jump in there.
No, it's all good. No, I mean, and it does, you're right. Said like about, a lot of our people, say they don't like, hearing the truth. They don't want to, they want to hear lies. They want to, and not just that, they would like to just settle and be like, you know what, I'm sufficient with this, Even, our, forefathers, they did that when they, got out of, Egypt. They wanted to go back. Most of them wanted to go back. I mean, it's sad, but I mean, and that's that, type of mentality that kind of, it bothers me. It bothers me because, what I'm saying? People try to, our people make excuses. No, but I just wanted you to, saying that, I wanted to touch on that, Daniel, because, like these people, man, they control this stuff, man, at the end of the day. And then, and there's going to be a time until the times, the time will be divided until the Most High, give us that, that green light to, to have these people bring us back to the land.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I wanted you to just read one more, because
where we going?
Aviyah, well, it's in Genesis, it's 49. But
Genesis chapter 49?
Yes, sir. And I mean, because like I listened to the sisters, to our aunties, they made some good points. We're always, criticizing each other. We're always arguing about, this stupid, buffoon stuff. When we can just, we can get over all that. Just, we need to do what, the Lord, tell us to do.
Hallelujah. Now, where we going? We going to 49 and what verse?
From the top.
Okay. All right. How far you want me to read?
Just from the top. That's it.
Okay, got you. It says Genesis 49. It says, and Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Because this is what I believe, man. I believe that, like this is like part of, like what's supposed to, transpire, what's supposed to, this event that this guy is about to do. The Most High, he's controlling that. And we got to be prepared. We got to gather ourselves together. So we'll
absolutely.
We'll know, what we're gonna, we'll know what's gonna, transpire and how to, move in one accord. Because if we gather ourselves together, we're all on the same accord. Am I right or wrong?
You 100% right. That's echoing the words that you hear me say all the time. Gather yourselves together. But what does that look like? Our people only see that through the lenses of religion and doctrine. They think that, We go keep the Shabbats and feast days together. Oh, we wearing tassels and fringes together. Oh, we wearing our mitris. We doing the feast days. We look at that from that point. But how can you gather yourself together when you're double-minded? And why do I say double-minded? On paper, on your driver's license, you not Yasharala, you Mark Jackson. You know, you are Tiffany Smith. And there has been, and on your driver's license that says that, and everything in man's system it says that. But when you go to if you know that you're Yasharala, then when you get to your Shabbat services and your feast days that you probably keeping, you now you Moshe ben Yahuda. So you got the people that you're talking to from that setting calling you one name, but you got the powers that be recognizing you as the name on your license that you went and took this by the stroke of the pen and filled out the license yourself and put the name on there. So nobody can tell me that you can't go change it. If you tell me that, then we lost touch with reality. Okay. So as it continues to say in there, it says, gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Yaakov, and hearken unto Yasharala, your father. Right? This is talking about Yaakov or Jacob being transformed into Yasharala, which is the Almighty put the name of his salvation upon him, and all the children of Yaakov or Yasharala became children of Yasharala, the man. Okay? They didn't become a nation until after Moshe on Mount Sinai and in Moab, the covenant was rectified. Okay? So how can we gather ourselves, O nation not desired, and be on one accord if we live in multiple personalities? But thank you, my brother, for that scripture. That's right on point. Right on point. So we're gonna go next. We're gonna go to another video, family. I'm gonna bring it up here real shortly. It's again, it's a lot of information out here, and we need to get on task in relation to what's going on. We got to pay attention because it's right before our faces. While we arguing with each other, while we debating with each other, you being controlled and manipulated. So I'm gonna play this video. Check this out.
The Supreme Court said it will decide if President Trump can limit the constitutional right to citizenship at birth. President Trump, you might remember, issued an order at the start of his second term to eliminate the law which automatically grants citizenship to anyone born in the United States. Birthright.
And family, look at this photo. They're all in black robes. This is a Masonic order. This is a Masonic rite. And I want you to remember these same kind of robes, everybody that comes through the educational system in this country, when they go from one level to another and they graduate, they put on this same kind of gown. And they have a square cap on their head, which looks like a flat trowel. And if you're in construction or masonry, a real mason, meaning that you're laying bricks, you use a trowel to put mortar on, okay? And when you're setting bricks, you put bricks down, you got these levels of bricks, but in between each brick is mortar. And you use the trowel to take the mortar off to put on the next level of bricks. And as you keep on doing that, it goes up and up and up. There's a symbolic meaning behind the square hat that you wear when you graduate. The mortar that's being put in your head is when you go to their schools and you're being indoctrinated into their system. So each level, you get more mortar as you go up until you graduate, and you take the tassel and you put it on the other side to show that now you're usable to continue to build their society. I just wanted to say that while we were watching this, because there's a lot of things to unpack here.
Right, citizenship has long been understood to be required under the 14th Amendment. I want to bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson for her analysis. Jessica, I'm always grateful to have you in moments like this. Explain for the audience what is and what the Trump administration has said ought to be.
So what currently is the 14th Amendment that we've understood for more than 100 years, well over 100 years, to say that it doesn't matter what the status of your parents are. If you're born in this country, then you are a citizen of this country. That particular view was supported by an 1868 case and by subsequent congressional statutes. So we have, ever since the 14th Amendment was ratified after the Civil War, understood that the only question really is, are you born in this country? And with the caveat of maybe if your parents, in fact, serve as foreign consulates, for instance. But the question now is whether or not the president can, by executive order, undermine that understanding. The Supreme Court's going to take up this case. I think this was always destined for the court. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think this is maybe 8-1, 7-2, that no, the president cannot do this.
And do you think, Jessica, that's why the court took it? Because as you well laid out, we have precedent and statute. Do you think the court wanted to make an affirmative declaration that those are the governing elements of this question?
Or at least 4 members of the court. As you know, and you're a student of the court as well, all it takes in order to decide to take a case is 4 votes. And so I think there easily could have been 4 to say the president has tried to change the understanding of the Constitution by executive order. We should be clear that there has been no court that has agreed that he can do that. This executive order, which I believe was signed on the first day of his presidency, never went into effect. But yes, to your question, I think this is one of those big constitutional questions that, generally speaking, the Supreme Court is the final word.
And Jessica, just
notice they said Supreme Court is the final word. Final word for who? Its subjects, the governmental authority that its subjects answer to. I want y'all to really pay attention to, when you really buy into all of this hoopla about citizenship, what you're doing is you're making it important to you. You're making it a reality for you. Again, we are creators. If we are children of the ultimate creator, the I am in us, you are a creator as well. So you create your anxiety, you create your reality through the thoughts that you allow to administer your consciousness each and every day. So when you're bombarded with this information, I'm showing you this so that you can, I know I'm pretty sure you guys are seeing this on your own in the news, but when they make this be important to you, the more you see it. Okay. So I wanted to give you this side first so you see what's being done, but you also have to understand what's being done to you as you digest this information and you buy into what's going on. I'm gonna continue playing this video.
for the sake of argument, what would American law and immigration policy look like if the Trump perspective were to prevail?
Great question. So if the Trump perspective prevails, then I think what you see is, frankly, in the short term, an administrative mess, in the sense of trying to figure out who is a citizen and who is not. What is the status of newborn's parents? Can you prove that when you go into, I mean, this is a bit of an exaggeration, but can you prove when you go into labor and delivery that in fact both parents are US citizens or have legal status? With respect to how this would affect other areas of the law, what would be the ripple effect? I mean, it really would be that there would be fewer citizens. And I think, again, the big short-term impact would be a lot of paperwork, a lot of sorting, a lot of proof to determine who now falls outside of the protection of the 14th Amendment.
Jessica Levinson, always a pleasure. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Supreme
Hallelujah.
Court.
Yes, family. So again, we have to be careful on what we digest each and every day, because what we digest, we become. You are what you eat physically, and you are what you eat emotionally. You are what you eat spiritually or conscious or subconsciously. So when you're digesting, there's some things that you can take away, but you can throw away the certain things out of what we're listening to. So there's another video that I would like to also bring to our attention, because many people may not be aware of the Dred Scott case. And, you know, this was a pivotal case in the mid to late 1800s. And it was something that was really on the radar of every state in relation to citizenship for quote unquote African slaves. Okay. And this whole 14th Amendment was predicated based upon the Dred Scott decision. And a little brief history of Dred Scott: he was a slave that was brought by his slave masters from Virginia to Missouri. And Virginia was a slave state at that time. Missouri was a free state. But they brought Dred Scott and his family as slaves to Missouri to still be under the banner of slaves. Well, in a freed state, well, there were abolitionists in Missouri that saw that, and they approached Dred Scott and advocated for him and really started up a case in the state court. And they fought for Dred Scott's freedom, and they won on the state level. But what happened was his slave masters, they went to the federal court and they petitioned the federal court to overturn the state court's opinion, a position on the ruling. And actually, the state court did. It was Supreme Court Judge Taney who overturned that. He said no African, slave or free, could ever be a citizen. Now, at that point when he said they could never be a citizen, this was prior to the 13th, 14th Amendment. There was only one kind of citizenship at that time. There was no U.S. citizenship. It was state citizenship. Each state retained the right of citizenship for each state individually. So when he ruled that basically saying you could never be a state citizen as being an African, free, or slave. So to unpack that, contrary to popular belief, state citizenship was superior, is superior still to 14th Amendment citizenship. Why do I say that? Because each state is actually its own sovereign nation. It's just they became united and formed the United States. And then because of the federal government's stronghold on finance, that each individual state gave up a piece of its sovereignty to the United States. That's why each state got its own constitution, family. Every state got their own constitution. Now, so to be a state citizen, you don't hear that anymore. Now you hear the term state residence or state domicile. They don't use the term state citizenship for anybody. They figured out, well, we found a way to make these Africans slaves and free citizens through the 14th Amendment. And they only did that, family. It wasn't so-called for so much of, oh, we're doing wrong. What under President Lincoln, what they were doing was the South had more money. It's always about commerce. It's about money. They had more money because they had free labor. The North didn't have that. So to equal the playing field, a strategic move for the North was for them to say, hey, we're going to make all the slaves citizens. And we're going to abolish slavery so that the South can't retain the financial power that it had from free labor. That's really what it was about, family. So as I wanted to talk about that a little before I played this video, but here we go.
The quote, this is so in the Dred Scott case, this is what he says. The words, quote, people of the United States, end quote, and, quote, citizens, end quote, are synonymous terms and mean the same thing. They both describe the political body who, according to our Republican institutions, form the sovereignty and who hold the power and conduct the government through their representatives. They are what we familiarly call the sovereign people, and every citizen is one of this people and a constituent member of this sovereignty. Now, this is before the term United States citizen was redefined later in a case that overturned this case called the Slaughterhouse cases, which Samuel Freeman Miller, right? So you have to make sure you understand the definitions of the words that are being used in each case, and you have to realize that after 1873, Samuel Freeman Miller redefined the term U.S. citizen to be an entirely separate class of citizenship, specifically for the released slaves of African descent and their descendants who were released after the 13th Amendment, and they had no citizenship. So the U.S. citizen term completely changed in 1873. So in 1857, it was the old definition, but it wasn't its own separate class. Here's the quote. This is so in the Dred Scott case, this is what he says.
So, family, I don't know if our people in the chat are aware of the Dred Scott case, but that's actually something for us to pay attention to in relation to the momentum of citizenship and how it evolved into what we see today. I see our sisters have fell off. They are not within the hemisphere of North America, so they may have had a connection issue. So we'll welcome them back when they come back in. I see here she comes, Javier. She's back. All praise. So, Brother Joshua, were you aware of anything about the Dred Scott case, or what's your knowledge about the Dred Scott case?
I mean, I don't know that much about it, but then hearing from it just now, you said it's just a scheme of words, basically. That's all it is. And they even say managed it to their compromise. So they can keep people, less. It's funny how, words, just like how you said, words can, they can change everything, man. It's like a sword. It's like a weapon.
Absolutely.
But I mean, like him, bringing out saying that's crazy how you say words could just change your whole status and
yes,
and strip you from everything.
Exactly. That's why death and life is in the power of the tongue. It does exactly that. That's why I mentioned earlier about casting spells when you're spelling words and you're using certain terms. You change the mindset. And when you create the word in a definition, you in an ultimate spot of control. My sister Javier and Earth Hill and Angel, what do you guys have to say about that? I know they're just getting back on. They're still muted. Earth Hill and Angel, are you able to unmute yourself? Or Javier Barak?
Their internet's acting up.
Oh, okay, their internet's acting up. Okay. All right, we'll get with them on the next video. So, but yes, family, we need to really have I can hear you now. Is that Javier?
Yes.
All praises.
Sorry, could you? All praises. You were asking about the feedback on the video?
Yes. What's your thoughts and takeaway on that?
Yeah, with even with the Dred Scott, and it's again, it was never to give us any rights. None of it is for our benefit or to help us. Number one, Yah is in control, and he said we're on punishment and we will not have ease. So there's nothing that they're going to do to give us that ease because we're on punishment. So there's that. And then number two, it's not for anything for our benefit. It's always going to be for their advantage. So they're not going to do anything, or it may seem like they're doing stuff to help, but it's not to help. It's almost like a pacifier. Like if I give you a little bit of crumbs, you'll be quiet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And to add to that, this is Sir. Um, I just had an imagery like what's going on. That it's very diabolical. It's like Yasharal, we are chess pieces on their chessboards, and they're using us as the pieces, manipulation pieces. They play political war and games with us. Um, does that make sense, Elder? It's
Absolutely.
like let's imagine all these different leaders of the world where we've been scattered, right? Our people, and here is this board, like they're coming into like how they have BRICS meeting, and what is that other big meeting they have?
The G7
And all these
Jeez.
different United Nations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's like all of these, thank you, Most High. It's only Yahoo could download the Ruach team, something like that. It's like they're sitting in these meetings and we're pawns, we're the chess pieces they're moving. Hey, we're gonna negotiate this and that. And to us it's an illusion for us. We think, oh, they're really helping us, the Democratic, the Republic, these other nations, they want to help. Like, we don't understand the word. What does it says? It says they came together conspiring. They made a tumult against us. And so they're literally what I saw in my everescence. They're moving us as chess pieces. This is just an illusion. It's just a game. It's like nothing they help us with. It's from a human level. It's always like Avia said, for their benefit, for and like I said earlier, for their political game. It's no, like we're dehumanized on a daily basis. They're still looking at us as that. Is it, the 2/5?
3/5.
Three
3/5
fifth?
of a human. Yeah.
Dang,
Mhm.
even less than the 2/5. Look at that. But seeing that visually in my ruach, like, dang, we chess pieces.
Yep.
That's it,
Mhm.
man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. It's called order out of chaos. And there's a Latin expression for that term. And it's on the, I forgot, I can't pronounce it Latinly, but it's a Latin expression, order out of chaos. And so what they do is create the chaos to establish the order. This illusion that you spoke about, that's exactly what they do. And then what they utilize our own people for us to fall into characterization of the illusion. And when we do that, we feel like we're doing the right thing by supporting the propaganda that they even utilize our own people to say. And that's what I'm getting ready to share a video like that right now, because we can get fired up about being a citizen, but we don't get fired up about unification as a people. We get fired up about being a citizen in a nation that has been your oppressor. You know, we got to stop doing the same thing, expecting different results.
I can't believe that we are asking the question, is the 14th Amendment to the Constitution constitutional? That is what, it is crazy. And I am sorry, but people need to call, this is crazy. They're asking us not to believe our own eyes and our own ears. They're asking us to go against everything that we know to be true. This is insane. I'm sorry, I just don't.
So now we see one of our sisters get emotional about the Constitution, about the arguments that we see being held in the current form of government under Donald Trump in relation to being a citizen. And she's very emotional, and it's always our people. And so when our people see that, we gravitate to that kind of paradigm. We fall right into character, family. We fall right into character, unfortunately. And so It's sad, but it's something that's real, that we have to pay attention to. But we have to start listening with keen ears. We have to start paying attention to what we're digesting each and every day. So before I bring the panel on, I'm going to play another video in relation to this subject matter.
Be honest, I killed MC. Yeah, it is to my understanding that to be an American is to be born in America. This is prior to the 14th Amendment. And the 14th Amendment basically ratified the point that said that African Americans are not fully human. They were considered 3/5 of a human, which made them ineligible to be considered as American citizens. So the 14th Amendment ratified that and said that a person had to be naturalized or born in America and stuff, which basically was saying the same thing that it was in order to be an American in the first place. So my question is that what protected the rights of Americans before the 14th Amendment? It would be the Constitution, right? So why would you have to add a 14th Amendment in order to make Black people citizens of the United States, as opposed to just...
They added the 14th Amendment because Africans were never meant to be citizens in the United States, to be state citizens. And they only added that again, family, for commerce reasons, to weaken the power of the South. It was about finance. It was about money. It was about, the North wanted to capitalize. They didn't want to be behind the South financially, because because if they remained like that, the South probably would have been the ruling body politic instead of the North. So they had a president in the South too, just like they had a president of the North. So it was this country was split.
Taking out the 3/5 clause, and we were still protected by the same Constitution. That made no sense, right? So we're 14th Amendment citizens, and an amendment can be amended. That don't protect us. All right.
He said a mouthful at the end. An amendment can be amended. That goes right along with what I've been saying about rights and privileges. When you have a privilege, the amendment was a privilege that they added. They can take it out. That's why Trump is having his case right now being heard in the Supreme Court, because he wants to change the definition of what was said. So we got to realize what we're being subjected to in this thing. And the thing about it is, it's a play on words. Words, but what does the Almighty say in his word? Death and life is in the power of the tongue. We've been manipulated by words, manipulated by the propaganda that we're being given. We have to wake up. We have to realize the weaponry that's being utilized against us as a people. We got to stop paying attention. We got to stop drinking the Kool-Aid, family. We just definitely have to stop doing that. Before we bring on the panel, I do want to share one more video. It's about the power of words. I don't want you just to hear it from me, but it's about the power of words and how we utilize them. Here we go.
As you know, in English means repeat again, okay? Redo something, return something, et cetera, et cetera. Revenue. Did you ever think in terms of the word internal revenue means to revenue into a different venue than you actually were in? Most of you.
So the internal revenue, the IRS, is to revenue your income under another jurisdiction. That's why you're paying taxes. I'm gonna keep going.
You were shaking your heads, you knew that. Okay, so that's an example of the roots of language. So in studying law, money, and history, and even before I got into law, I studied a lot of this, the roots as it would apply to our English word religion. Again, lig comes from the Latin ligere, which means to bind. It's the root of the word ligament or ligature, which is a binding. So the word religion means to bind again.
That's amazing. Religion means to bind again. That means you're bound by something, and they use words to bind you to religion, or you bind yourself to religion. Spells are being casted, family. Let's keep going.
And everything in our entire global structure, and if we're speaking specifically of the United States, the judicial system, the medical system, the legal system, of course, et cetera, they're all structured as esoteric systems. They're all hierarchical or pyramidal, just like the Masonic system. They're all exactly structured the same way. The IRS is an esoteric society that is just like the Masonic order. You start at degree number 1, and you are given a lot of code and structure to create an orientation of your mind, much of which is not actually ultimately true. But in your ignorance, you are trained to believe it's true, and then you act accordingly. The judicial system is structured the exact same way. And it is all based on the roots of that word religion, how to bind the mind.
They have bound our minds religiously to the system, family, and they use your spirituality and religious practice to keep you under control. Period.
So ligere means to bind again. And if you recall, when I started in the beginning, I used that phrase, binding our minds. The word government basically means mind control. So is there a purpose for the government to control the minds of the masses? Well, in a lot of ways, actually, there legitimately is. Because from what I see, the masses are pretty wild and crazy. But have they been entrained and directed to be that way, or is that fundamentally our essential nature? Well, that remains to be seen. Okay, and I'm not going to answer that question today.
That was a lot of information to unpack, family, in relation to word usage. And I'm gonna give you my spill on word usage also. It's so we speak a lot of words each and every day. We bind ourselves to words each and every day that we use them all the time. He spoke about religion. He spoke about the government. And when we use the word citizen, we use the word subject, we use the word resident, all of those things are terms used to bind us to the ruling party of law. Okay? These are spells that have been casted that we subject ourselves to. This is phenomenal, but they figured it out. We just haven't figured it out. We haven't realized how we've been bound to this particular system. That's like, I was going to give you an example of this. If I say, I'm going to give you a code word, and when you knock on my door and you say this code word to me, then I know it's you, then you can come in, right? Or if I have a keypad on my entry for you and you can come in without knocking, and I say, I'll just put in this code and you can come in. Well, these codes that I'm giving you to come in, you put it on the keypad, you come in. Not everybody has the code, but when you know the code, you have access. That is, it's codified because it's a secret. Not everybody has the code to enter. You only give the code to those that you trust, right? To show you the play on words, when you go into the rule of law of the United States, whether it's the state level, federal level, or your municipal level, their laws are written under code. For example, the United States Code, Title 26, subsection 18, subpart 1.04. For example, that's a code that you have to know the code to go get the information, right? Their laws are written in code. It's called codes, as a matter of fact. And if you don't know the code, you don't know where to go or how to get it. And then when you get the code, if your mind is not aware of how the words are interpreted, you can read those words in the code and not understand it at all. And they'll send you, like, for example, it could be any form of government. They can send you a letter saying you violated such and such law under code such and such, such and such. Therefore, you are charged this fine, or you can be locked up for however many days that they say. And then what the average person reads, they see that code. They said this code, this is where the law is. They'll read this. Oh man, they got me. But never going to the code itself and reading it. Never going to the code and reading it. Again, family, I'm showing you the play on words. Codes mean it's a secret. Then they'll turn around and tell you that ignorance of the law is no excuse. But the law is codified. But your ignorance of the code is no excuse. So with that being said, family, I'm going to go ahead and open up to the panel. My brother Joshua, what's your position on what I just said and what the video said?
It's funny you brought up the word code, Elder. You know what I'm saying? We got that in Washington State. They're called RCWs. Read, and that's funny how that dude said read, because it's like, you know what I'm saying, you're reattaching something. But it's revised code of Washington. That's what RCW means. And if you violate any of those, you're going to jail. Same thing with the, I think they call it WAC. They call it or WAC, Washington Administrative Codes. Those are the, you know what I'm saying, that they implement to the administration, so they'll have a, you know what I'm saying, definition before they, you know what I'm saying, put it into the RCW. Like, it's a nasty system. That's all I can really tell you. You know, and you're right. You're right. You gotta educate yourself, man. You know what I'm saying? Ignorance is not an excuse. I mean, I was a young, you know, jit, man. I just went out and, you know, I was just, you know, I was a rebellious young man, and I had to learn the hard way. You know what I mean? Like I said, I mean, but you're right though. I mean, yeah, they come up with all types of codes, man. So they can,
absolutely. Yep. So they can control you, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. And Earthfield and Angel, did you have any positioning on what was stated?
Yes, actually, and if you don't mind, Elder, I'd like to go back, starting with the young lady who got worked up. Sorry, our internet is really bugging out today, so we're lagging and missing bits and pieces here and there. But going back to her, you know, it's really embarrassing. And she doesn't know any better, because you remember, are you guys hearing me?
Yes, we hear you. We hear you loud and clear.
We hear you, Auntie.
You know, it goes back to that verse you read for me, Brother Joshua, that day, about the ass knowing, is the ass knowing his owner. And could you get it for me again, please?
Yeah, that's Isaiah 1 and 3.
Yes.
I can get it. Hold on just a minute. Let me
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Isaiah 1 and 3.
Hold on, let me grab it myself so I can share it to the screen. Isaiah chapter 1. And you said verse 3. And
yeah,
one second here. Hold on, let me bring it up to the screen.
All right.
Let's see. All righty, I am on the screen. Go ahead.
I can barely see that. I got it on the same thing though.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, it's cool. I got it. It says the ox knoweth his owner, because I can see that's what I'm saying. I can't read. It's all good. I can read mine. It says, "The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doeth not know. My people doeth not consider."
Thank you. All praises to the Most High. Thank you both for that. The reason she's carrying on like that, she doesn't know who she is. You know, when I was in Christianity, the worst thing I could have been in the Midwest, in Ohio, where I went to college, was actually be in a mega church that was run by Caucasians. I don't mean no offense to any strangers cleaving to us by saying this. The reason I said that, Elder, when you are in those types of environment, you can become really whitewashed. I remember the Black Panther coming in to this famous mega church out there in Columbus, Ohio, that I went where I went to college, and our very own Negro people were coming against Black Panther, and things were being said about Malcolm X and different things. And here I am in different countries where they appreciate these people, where they're demonized in the States, but you have Turkish people and you have Saudi Arabian people going, oh, we love Malcolm X teaching and his books and, you know, this and that. And Black Panther was demonized to the point like they weren't bad people. They were out there educating our young people, teaching them how to have self-respect, how to have Black love. It was only demonized because our people got tired of being lynched and destroyed, and they had to protect themselves. And so I don't mean to run on with this, but I'm building a foundation here. I was in this mega church with all of these Caucasian people. You can lose yourself and who you are, even with that scripture, that precept that was read. And so this sister, she's sitting up with these strange nations. She thinks she's a part of them. She doesn't know the curses, but when my eyes were open and I came back to my first love and I saw through the illusion, yeah, opened my eyes. It's like I took my bed under my blanket for days, like trying to unpack all of this matrix illusion, this illusion we were living in. And I'm sure if her eyes could open, she would be sickened to her core, like, what the heck am I acting like this? They don't even receive me. I'm just a token person here, you know? So moving on to the other guy with the spells. That's why I wish, Elder, sometimes that Yah would just anoint me, just allow me to flow in our authentic Hebrew language. That would be so pray in, because when you go into like the Bantu people, I know you know about this, Elder, but this stuff that we're fighting about too, that is Hebrew, it's Yiddish, and that spells on those words we think are Hebrew languages.
Absolutely.
Our people, the Bantu people, the Sub-Saharan, the Swahili, they're speaking the real Hebrew language within the language. That's why if you listen to Nigerian music, Afro beats, and different things, you hear them talking, you feel a stirring in your soul and your spirit. You don't know why. Why is this speech? Why is this song touching me like that? It's because that's your authentic language. We think when we say shalom and shalom, We think we're the stuff that we speak in Hebrew. That's not Hebrew. It's Salama. Salama is
Mm-hmm.
the closest to Arabic than you speaking that Yiddish. So even in us saying these words in the so-called Hebrew, modern Hebrew, which is Yiddish, there's spells on it as well. So I just pray I could wake up one morning or night and I'm speaking fluent, like our real ancient, authentic language. Yeah. So that's it.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All praise it. You said it, and and that day will come. The word tells us when it's going to come. When he return us to our land, that's when he's going to restore us under the pure tongue. All this stuff we're speaking today is argumentative or it can be debated upon. So that's why I always follow the I am in me in relation to what I'm saying, what I'm doing, what I'm calling myself, what I'm speaking on. But you're absolutely right. All information you just said is so true. All praises. Our beloved sister, Javier, did you have anything to add to that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Can, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can
Oh,
hear
okay.
you.
Thank you. All praises. Okay, thank you. All praises. Um, I just wanted to say, like what the gentleman said with the words being spells, it's not, I mean, yes, they have it in code, but if you even look at every aspect of our lives, from an application for a credit card, even going onto a website, there's always these fine print of agreements and you know, in order to see this site, you have to agree to this and agree to the cookies, or even with the legal terms and privacy and stuff like that. And the wording in all of these, you notice that they put it in terms that they know the average person, especially us as Yasharel, you have to go to like almost like a law school to understand and to break this down to really what it means. So it keeps us subjugated because we don't know their code, and it's deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
deliberate to
absolutely.
keep us in that subjugated position.
Diabolical, man.
Yeah,
And so
it is.
and because of that, like what he said, these are all spells. So when you are agreeing and you're signing your name and you're saying yes to this, we are now agreeing to come underneath these spells, these subjugation.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. You're right.
yeah, and they've designed
You
it that way.
Yes, they did. You said when you said signing your name, even with that, I'll break that down very quickly. Signing your name. So you have a sign, right? That you craft when you use your hand. That's a sign, right? However you phonetically, whether you're spelling it, whether you're writing cursive, that's a sign, or whether you use a symbol, that's a sign. Okay. That's not you, but that's a sign that you use to identify your person. Notice, and it says signing, you just said signing your name or sign your name. So if you have a name, right? You're signing your name is actually not you, but it's something that you have right to or you own. You're signing the name, you're putting a symbol of something that represents you on a document that you haven't fully read, like Javier said, because what happens is we are bombarded with all kinds of things throughout the day. We're on this hamster wheel. We're on our phones, we're on the media. We don't have time to digest and read every word. So instead of reading it, oh, this credit card giving me $5,000. Let me just put my sign of my name on here and accept it without reading the terms, right? And as our brother said in the chat, Tazadak, all praise, shout out to you, my brother. He says here, speaking of codes, I had done some Fed time before, and most brothers don't understand the codes or charges that they are being held on. Literally had to show brothers step by step what that meant. Absolutely. And here's the thing I wanted to say, and I brought that up to the stage because charges, family, let's think about that for a second. When you go to the store and you purchase something, aren't they charging you a fee? Or if somebody's purchasing something from you, aren't you charging them a fee? So even in criminal law or in civil law, or whatever it is, law, banners of law that they have, if you have charges placed upon you, there is a fee. That's a fee. So the scales of law supposed to be balanced, right? You know the law, the symbol of law is this balanced scale, this scale that's balanced. But if your scale is unbalanced, if they put a charge on you, then the scales go like this. That means this weight is the charge. If you don't put nothing on this end to balance it out or come back up, you're going to be subject to the charge that's on there. So when you balance it out, you always have to move with a counterclaim, family. And I'm saying this to all of y'all, no matter what situation you find yourself in, if you're in any kind of situation where you're being sued, the government's saying you owe this or that, if it's not right, you have to find a way to put in a counterclaim or counter charge. Because when you put in that counterclaim or counter charge, then you can equal it out. They don't tell you this in school, but ignorance of the law is no excuse, family. That's the kind of thing that we abide by, unfortunately, in this unjust system. Okay. I got another video I want to share with you really quick.
Citizen. A legally recognized subject or national of a state or commonwealth, either native or naturalized.
A legally recognized subject or national of a state or commonwealth, either native or naturalized. Subject, a recognized subject. That's what a citizen is. So when you're a subject, then you're under the banner of control. But they wanted to whitewash, instead of saying you're subjects like back in England, they didn't use the word citizen back in the day, they used subject. But in the United States, which is a child of Great England, it's one of his children, they changed the word from subject to citizen. But really it's the same thing. Let me keep playing this.
Use in a sentence. A British citizen.
So I wanted to really play that video because it really spelt out how the word citizen is just not what I've been telling you on this podcast about citizen being one and the same with subject. Again, we are under the spell of words, and until we have a overstanding of the spell of words, we'll be brought under its jurisdiction ignorantly. Okay, we're already by the covenant breach in this captivity, right? But now it's time for us to become men and women instead of just children. How long are we going to be just children of Yasharallah, seeking to be children of Yasharallah instead of being Yasharallah itself, being the I am, being in connection with the I am itself? Okay. Yasharallah means salvaged lamb. We have been taken out of the salvage yard of carnality and elevated, but we wanted to be like the carnal world. When we go back to the scripture, when our people was under, at that time when there was no king, and Samuel or Shemaiah was the prophet at the time. And they came to him and saying, we want to be like the nations. Give us a king. And he went to the Almighty. And this is before King Saul. He went to the Almighty, and the Almighty said, look, don't be sad. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting me. But I'm going to give them a king. They want to be like the rest of the nations. I'm going to show them what that means. Okay? So that's how that got brought into play. I got another video to share before I open it up to the panel.
Hello, everyone. Justin McGill here. Today I want to talk about something that was pivotal to the American Revolution. It was the most fundamental point that all of the founding fathers kept coming up against that caused them to rebel against the British government. So that fundamental issue was whether they were subjects or whether they were citizens.
Now this video, this guy is going to attempt to make a distinct difference between subject and citizens, because they did try to change the meaning, but the application of you being a citizen is still the same as being a subject. But we're going to listen a little bit.
So I'm going to read you from the dissertation on the manner of acquiring the character and privileges of a citizen of the United States. This was written very early on in our country, and it distinguishes between citizen and subject. So it talks about how because of the American Revolution, a new government was formed, and the principles of this new government being radically different, the character of the people was also changed from subject to citizen. And the author says the difference is immense. Subject is derived from the Latin words sub and jaccio, and means one who is under the power of another. But a citizen,
sorry about that, family,
is a unit of a mass of free people who collectively possess sovereignty. So a subject has a master. A subject is owned by their government, whereas a citizen owns their government.
Now pause. Again, in how they wanted to define the word, yes, subject and citizen, to make that difference. But when you look at the application of being a citizen and being a subject, they one and the same. They're one and the same. We're under the illusion that the government is by the people and for the people. Well, if the government is by the people and for the people, how does the government rule adversely against the people?
So free people who are citizens have public servants who work in government, whereas a subject is owned by the crown, and the crown decides how things will go, and the subject has to follow what's done. So the American Revolution, the 10, 20 years leading up to hostilities, the abuses that were listed in our Declaration of Independence of the 13 unified states.
Family, when he spoke about British crown, he's talking about a monarchy, right? Now, in actuality, when we were in our top of our nation, when we were in a nation and we were in good standing, we had a monarchy too, under the kingship of King David or King Dawid. So a monarchy is not bad in itself, depending on the rulers that's in place. But what we have today in this present form of government is what they like to say, a democracy, which the definition of democracy really means majority rule. But what we take the definition of democracy to mean, based upon the media presence and what they display to us, is some sort, if you ask a person out there on the street, what does democracy mean? A lot of them going to say, oh, freedom, right to choice, and all this kind of thing. They're not going to say, 90% of the time, they're not going to say majority rule. But whether you have a monarchy or a majority rulership type of government, they're still ruling over you, right? But what they did was take the foundational principle of a monarchy and put it on a conglomerate body and disguised it to say that the people run the government. I mean, yeah, you got people in there, okay, but can the government be adversarial and intrusive to its citizens? Absolutely. It absolutely can. And it does. And majority rulership, who wants to be? So when you think about it, us as so-called, hate to use the term African Americans because we're not that, but in this captivity, we are minorities. So how, as a minority, you're going to seek democracy, which is majority rulership? In actuality, the United States was not founded as a democracy, it was founded as a republic. It tells you in their pledge allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. It doesn't say to the democracy. So how did the term democracy get impressed in our heads that the United States is a democracy fundamentally? That's because it's been a bait and switch. It's founded as a republic, and the difference between republic and democracy is big. For example, if you have 10 people in a room and they got to decide which direction you're going to go in together, then you have a vote, right? And let's say out of those 10 people, 3 people want to go right, 7 people want to go left. In a democracy, it's the majority rule. They're going to go direction of the 7, and the 3 got to go with the 7. In a republic, it's all for one, one for all, meaning that if there's a split in a vote, then they have to come back to renegotiate the terms to come up with a unanimous decision. That's what a republic government form is. And originally, family, it was really the Republicans that pushed for the freedom of the slaves off the plantation. And then somehow it got switched. But even dealing with, that's a whole nother conversation, because really politically in politics, there's really no difference between Republican and Democrat. That's all an illusion. That's all a play on words. Also, those are all spells that we've been under likewise.
They distinguish a subject who has to follow whatever they're told to do from a citizen who has inherent rights that cannot be taken away by anyone, by the king, parliament, nobody. We see this mostly through the taxation that was occurring throughout that period. We see protective tariffs like the tea tax that was designed to help the East Indian Trading Company make profits as opposed to foreigners. We see it in the sugar tax, the stamp tax, all the coercive acts of Parliament to try to raise money off of the people of the colonies of America. So we see a lot of writings on the founders on this subject. We see a lot about natural rights starting to come out in their writings. We also understand they didn't have a way to push back against their government before the revolution. So they could send letters to Parliament and request relief. They could send delegations to request relief. But aside from just...
For the sake of time, I'm going to fast forward him a little bit, family. Okay, we're going to start right here.
Mainland of Britain with Scotland and Ireland. It was the same government overall, but it didn't treat all of its citizens the same way. And in essence, that's because there were no citizens. They were all subjects. Some of them had more rights than others, but all of them were given to them by the king. So there's a lot of back and forth politics where political prisoners were taken. So somebody who opposed the king would go to prison and be tortured, and it had nothing to do with them violating somebody else's natural rights. It was only a matter of whether or not they were obedient to the government. So that's a great test for today. We need to decide what.
That's the same thing that's happening today. Think about it. If you're speeding, you're going 30 in a 25. You don't hit anybody. You don't cause an accident. Nothing happened. They can give you a ticket and penalize you, although you didn't violate anybody. You didn't cause harm to anybody. That's the same principle that he's speaking of, really, under the banner of citizenship. Just wanted to bring that up.
Whether we're citizens or whether we're subjects. If you go to jail because you violated somebody else's rights, you've committed a crime. You should be punished for your crime. However, if you're going to jail because all you did was just not obey the government, you're not a citizen, you're a subject.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. If you go to jail because you violated a statute and you didn't cause harm to anybody or their property, you're a subject, no matter if you call yourself a citizen. That's the point that I wanted to bring out. So it's very important to know the difference between subject and citizen, but know how they've been merged together. It's in the application.
The government owns you, the government tells you what to do, and if you don't do it, there's consequences. So like the founding fathers, we need to decide whether we're citizens and whether we're subjects. We need to decide what that's going to look like. So they say actions speak louder than words. So we hear a lot of people saying that they want their rights, which would be a citizen, but their actions, they constantly ask the government to make them subjects. They ask the government to take care of their retirement. They ask the government to take care of their medical needs. They ask the government to make sure they have a job or to pay them when they don't have a job. They ask the government to be their king.
And how do we ask the government to do that? Through participation in the voting process. That's how we do that. So we're asking someone to take care of our needs because we are not mature enough to do it for ourselves. That's what it is.
They want to subject themselves to government. Again, the American Revolution was driven by an estimated 3% of the population. Most everybody at that time was happy just being a subject. They just did what they were told to do, and maybe they would grumble and push back a little bit by writing to Congress or to Parliament when they didn't like something, but they weren't actually going to do something about it. So it was just a 3% that was saying, we're tired of being abused and used. We have God-given natural rights, and we're going to stand on those rights. And when the government of England refused to accept the terms that were being given, they simply broke it off. They rejected their old government and created a new one. So I want everybody to be thinking about that. Are you a subject or are you a citizen?
And I want y'all to think about it, how subject and citizen is actually one and the same in its application.
What are you doing about your government if you think you're a citizen? Is your government working for you? Do you have public servants? Or is your government telling you what to do and abusing you or prosecuting you if you don't do what the government says? So take some time, read about the common sense of the patriots, and make a decision. Are you a subject or are you a citizen?
Hallelujah. All praises. All right, panel. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts, Brother Joshua, on that? Are you still there, Brother Joshua? Your mic is on mute. But we'll wait till he come back. Sister Earth Healing Angel or Javier, did you have any thoughts on what this video was displaying?
Yes, Elder. I was sitting here listening to that, even though I watched it earlier, and I had to take it back to us as Yasharal. Do you remember when, yeah, he wanted to be the only supreme over us, but we got jealous of the other nations around us who had kings and leaders, and we said, we want a king. We want that as well. And then our own kings and stuff leaders started oppressing us as a people as well. You see what I mean? So when
Mhm.
he wanted to be the ultimate supreme because he's just, he's fair. Um, and he let us know, hey, if you get a king, this is what's going to happen. He's going to take some of your inheritance or your land and your this and that. And we were like, we don't care. We still want a leader like the other nations. And so to me, really, it's no difference than what's happening with other governmental systems that is in the earth. That's the whole hierarchy of it, to subjugate people under them. So that's my take on it.
Hallelujah. You're absolutely right. And what about our beloved sister Javier? Did you have anything to say?
Um, yes. When I know he was trying to distinguish between the two, but even what he said that he had brought out a definition that the citizens, the government is supposed to be subject to them. But if you even look at today, even what's going on, there are many times that the government will say something, and if you don't adhere to that, even though you're not committing a crime or anything, you're just in disagreement, you can actually be taken to jail and prosecuted. So we are subject to them. And even when you define democracy as majority rule, but if the majority's mind is that we want all the wealth for ourselves and we don't care about the people below us, there you have again another oppressive system. Yes, they're in rulership, but they don't have your interests at heart. You still got to do what they say. So it's all comes back to, again, being subjugated and being oppressed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, beloved. Brother Joshua, are you back yet? All right, he'll come back. I'm gonna play this next video, and I'll warn you, it may be a little bit explicit in language, but we're all grown. We know how to place it correctly. So I'm gonna share this video, and it's about taxation. 1 second here. Oops. Let me get this volume right. Let me see if it'll play.
Definitely. And then after you tax my check, you gonna take 40% of my paycheck in taxes? Most definitely. And then after you tax my check, you gonna tax me on anything I spend with the money left from my check that you already taxed. Oh, you getting it now? You this close?
So you get taxed from your check before you get it. Then you're going to get taxed on the same money you already been taxed on again when you go purchase something. That's
close to getting ready to chase the American dream. So let me get this shit straight. Bitch, you gonna tax my whole check. Give me what's left. Then I'm gonna spend that on something. And you're gonna tax me again for spending money that was already taxed. And after I buy something, I have to pay taxes on that. Or else you're gonna take it from me because I didn't pay taxes. Yes, and if you do that real hard and just pull up on your bootstraps with all your might, you will make it in this country. Bro, that sounds like some fucking bullshit. If I gotta pay taxes on anything that exists forever, anytime, always, every day, or else I fucking get my shit took or go to prison, do I own anything? No, y'all don't own shit. It's just a big lending system. We own everything, and we just sell you the illusion that you got something. You don't have shit. Miss a tax payment, I'm taking that shit. Miss another one, I'm taking your fucking life. You're going to prison. Don't like it? Leave. So you
Wow. Again, family, it's explicit, but it's real talk. That's really how the system works. So, does it sound like subjects is by definition different or application different from citizenship? No. Look at what's happening. Pay attention to what you're being subjugated to. That's telling you the story, family. I got another video to share, and let me see if it's working. 1 second. Let me add it to the screen here. Sometimes these Facebook videos don't work the same way as the YouTube videos. So bear with me, family. 1 second. Let me change and see if we can get this volume up right. Oh boy. 1 second. It doesn't appear as though this one is working, but that's okay. I got another one. We're gonna not let that hamper what we're doing. This video is about the voting scam, family, that I'm sharing now. It's a Facebook video also, so I hope it plays. I don't know why Facebook is working adversarial today, but we're going to go ahead and continue. Let me share this to the screen. But family, there are realities out here that we really got to pay attention to. It's right in our faces. But are we listening? Are we looking? I'm going to share this one. I think this one is playing. Okay.
Democracy is a system created by those in power to make.
In this video that I'm about to show you, it sums everything up perfectly, and this is what we need to do.
If voting could change anything, voting would be illegal. Democracy is a scam. Democracy is a system created by those in power to make poor people think you can radically transform your reality without violence and revolution. That's all democracy. That's why America says we got to make the world safe for democracy. Why you got to make the world safe for democracy? Because if most of the people in the world woke up, they would understand a ballot ain't going to change shit. Bullets do. Show me a revolution, queen, that's ever changed anything show me a change that's ever come through elections and not revolution. Did the Chinese Revolution come through elections? No. Did the Russian Revolution come through elections? No. Did the Cuban Revolution come through elections? No. Did the American Revolution come through elections? No. Did the African There has never been a revolution in human history where people was able to change their conditions by voting for somebody.
Now that's facts, family. No revolution has been changed or anything for the people changed by voting. Even when the Almighty took the nation out of ancient Egypt, did that get voted upon? No, that was done by force. It was done by force, And so the same way here today, why do we think that voting is going to change our paradigm? We have been given certain things, and because we have been given certain things, we believe that those things that we've been so-called given have materialized, but it's only a part. It's like pieces put before a horse to be led. So I'm gonna play another video in reference to this, family. Here we go.
enslaved is just losing the war. Like once we integrated, we thwarted the opportunity to teach our own children. We don't have no options on what we teach Black kids in public schools. Think about this, y'all. In a lot of public schools, in a lot of colleges, they tell Black men that they can't wear locks. Your natural hair. Dog, do you see that they say they can do anything to meet that they want to, put anything they want to without telling you the truth about it? Think about right now in America, what Black people have influence over what happens to their children in general. What they feed them, what they see on TV, what they hear on the radio, any of those things. So by integrating, by even saying that you want civil rights, take the word, the operative part of the word is civil, right? You're saying that I just want you to treat me civilly, right? And anything that you do in life, 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna make 100, right? Even if you're great. So if you fall short of civil, that means they treat a dog better than they treat you. I don't want civil rights. I want you to treat me like the God that I am.
Now that was a mouthful. He don't want civil rights. He wants them to treat him as the power or God that he is. How many of us exchange civil rights for some sort of power? We do, but we do it ignorantly, family. We do it out of total ignorance. I got another video I should play for you that I want you to check out. One second. Let me see if it gets its act together. Some of these videos in Facebook, sometimes, like I said, they partly play, but they don't. Can't get that one to play, but while I'm trying to get the videos together, Brother Joshua, did you get a chance to see that video I just played? What's your take on that?
Man, you done played like several videos, but no, that one with David Banner, man, yeah, he got some truth to it. I mean, he's from the South too, so I understand his position and his stance. But yeah, man, like all that stuff comes down to, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like we're not even supposed to vote for these people, man, if they don't look like us or they, you know, they don't, you know what I'm saying, go by the law, statutes, and commandments. I think it's in Deuteronomy. Let me see real quick. I think it's in Deuteronomy, if I'm not mistaken. Where it talks about, you know what I'm saying, we are not supposed to, we shall not vote for a king or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Like it's a leader, if you understand what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, the thing is that, and that's true. It's just that we are one of the things that we have to realize too is we're not under our governmental rulership in Deuteronomy. We under the law of this land that we in this captivity too.
Right.
So we can't even apply the Torah to this land. We can't.
Right. You're absolutely right. I mean,
you know, yeah, we got to realize, accept our punishment. The biggest thing that we could do today is declare who we are in the system. We don't realize that we disrupt the algorithm, the function of the system, when we go do that. And when we go do that, then we can stand 10 toes down collectively as a people and show our obligation to our nation that we once had. And when we do that, we can watch the power of the great I am restore us and bring us back. You know, would you agree with that, my brother?
I mean, I would agree, yeah, to a certain extent. But the only reason why I'm saying that is that, you know, I mean, you're right on the, you know what I'm saying, until the Most High come back. I mean, it's also, you know what I'm saying, I also take care, you know what I'm saying, what the Most High tells us too, you know. I mean, I just try to stick to, you know what I'm saying, to the law as much as I can. But if I can't get it, you know what I'm saying, you're right. Our captivity, you know what I'm saying, got our ass in the situation we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely right, man.
Right.
I just, you know what I'm saying, I feel that, you know what I'm saying, like, I ain't gonna say feel, I believe that this is not subject for us, man. This is not. We're just like how you said. We're in the land of our captivity. You know, we got. I mean, we got to go by rules. I get that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just don't agree with a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And it's iffy. I gotta watch what I say too. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I don't want to get your channel shut down, man. Because like, there's a lot of stuff that no, for real. I gotta be very, very. I gotta be very, very. You know what I'm saying? Mindful of what I say. Because like there's a lot of things, you know what I'm saying, that it touches that topic what you're talking about voting. And actually, you know what I'm saying, that's why I kind of agree. I agree and I disagree in certain points. And what I mean by that, I mean, you can, for example, let me give you an example just real quick, and I'm gonna get off the poll. Is like for example, like voting or electoral vote. You know, I know you're familiar with that. We don't have that, man. You know what I'm saying? We think that it counts and it actually doesn't. You know what I'm saying? From what last time I ever voted, man, this is like when I was in, in the I wasn't in the truth. You know, was when Obama was in office, and he didn't do nothing for us either. So I mean, it's I get it. You know, I mean, it makes you, and I know, you know what I'm saying, our forefathers are like, our ancestors, you know what I'm saying, they fought for the right for us to, you know what I'm saying, to vote and all that other stuff and blah blah blah. But it really ain't really did anything. It really ain't did nothing for us because look at what the conditions we're still in. It's right. And I'm not being negative. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying, what I've experienced. And many others.
Exactly. You know, and here's my stance on it, and I don't have a problem with saying it. We in this land, what they use is voting as their cliche of you getting some sort of remedy. But as you said, voting, we're voting for the lesser two evils in many cases. So do you have an option to vote or no? Yes, even in this captivity. Even though this is the way that they form their government, you have the option not to partake. So just because that's how their government functions, when you partake in the system, you are in agreement with it. You are acquiescing to the function of the system. Make no mistake. And I have no problem with saying that. That's an absolute truth, family. And thank you, my brother Josh. I'm gonna play this next video too, because this one brother always breaks it down so very plain. I'm gonna play this now.
The mind of a colonized person is pathetic. That we have to sit at this day and age and protect a system that has vandalized and destroyed us to such an extent that we can sit around and debate its veracity within our cultural corridors.
Yeah.
It's a shame that we must seek for tolerance with external forces that are encroaching into our cultural space. We have never imposed African culture on the European system. But here we are as Africans, fighting with each other of how to protect the colonial religious system.
He's talking about the colonialized mind. Colonization took its root in Alkebulan, Africa, differently on how it took its root here in the United States. But nonetheless, we are all being colonized from a different perspective, but for the same purpose. It's the purpose for those that are in position as a colonizer to benefit off the ones that they colonized. And so that's why we vote in a Democrat or Republican system in this body politic in the United States, because our minds have been colonized to participate in such a function. Just wanted to bring that out.
That has invaded our space. I'm not sorry for saying what I say, but on behalf of the grandchildren that will come after me, we have an enemy in the house that has corrupted our minds. And if we pursue on this path of debate, we'll end up as coconuts, brown on the outside and white on the inside.
He said they end up as coconuts, brown on the outside and white on the inside. What a powerful statement. My sister Javier or Earthfield and Angel, what's your thoughts on that?
Even when I had listened to it earlier, it hit. so profound because the conditioning of our minds, we subjugate ourselves to their system, we will fall into the matrix of their system. And like he said, yes, we will literally be brown on the outside, but our mindset, our movements, and everything that we do will be based on their system and not on who we are. We will lose our identity.
Absolutely. Hallelujah. You're absolutely right. What about you, our sister Earthful and Angel? What's your perspective?
Yeah, I'm taking it in. I agree. I totally agree with Sister Avia and Elder, is it Mapunga? I love this guy. I can't remember.
Yes, yes.
Elder, is he a Zulu? Because I noticed in this other video he's wearing like this is some leopard or tiger type. I know the Zulu, they have that headpiece. So, and if he's Zulu, he's definitely one of us, but his spirit feels like one of us as well. But
Absolutely.
this thing I think a lot of us are coconuts already. Even not
Absolutely.
trying to be nasty about it, but it's so much influence. Like I was saying earlier in another thought that even being in their schools, their churches, the work environments, and different things, we take on their mindsets. That's why Yasharal is called to be a set apart people, where we weren't supposed to be mingling and being in the midst of, heathen nations, because Yah wanted us separate because we would take up their behaviors, right? And as we see, that's why Uncle Phineas, he had to use that javelin, to set order with his zeal, bringing wickedness without shame in the midst of us, would Yah forbid. And so we started being coconuts a long time ago, from we started rebelling against Yah, even in our own land, intermingling, going among these different nations, taking up their idols, their mighty ones, and different things. So, yeah, I think I might have been a coconut too, you know. And then I got my, what they call the and wake up call. And once you get that, that's a real wake up call. So, yeah.
Absolutely. It's the coconuts and the Oreos, right? That's what we that's what we were really talking about. So
Yeah.
one and the same. I got another video from our brother I'm gonna play here too.
There is no white man on the face of the earth who can walk up to me and say, I'm a Jew. I'm a Hebrew. And you're white. I'm Hebrew. Hebrew, my foot. Kazakhstan, the Tsars, Ashkenaz are now running the world. Nobel Peace Prizes. Jewish. Banks, Jewish. Insurance, Jewish. They own 90% world economics and finances around the whole world. So the new god of the world is money, not truth. Correct theology.
He said the new god of the world is money. And absolutely, on the US dollar, it says, in God we trust, right? That's not talking about the great I am that I am, the most almighty Yahweh. It is in God we trust is an acronym, GOD. G stands for governments, O stands for ordinances, D stands for the departments. That's what we trust in when we declare ourselves to be citizens. That's the God that we trust in. And a lot of us believe we can serve two gods. Keep playing.
So we can't sit here and be spoon-fed poor academic information on the basis of popularity to sound right with the world.
Be careful of any narrative that tells you one group owns truth, owns power, or owns the world, because that is how division is manufactured. The real danger is not identity. It is when money replaces morality, when influence becomes louder than truth, and people stop questioning what they are being taught. Because once knowledge is controlled, perception is controlled. And once perception is controlled, people will defend systems that do not serve them. And this has been the story of African Christians and Muslims. They'll defend to death the religion that enslaved and still enslaving them. We are too grown to inherit conclusions without interrogation. The question is not who claims what identity. The question is who benefits from what you believe.
And you know what, family? That's the same thing as it is in Al-Kibalan, Africa, as I say. It's the same thing over here with us. We fight for a system that has not been for us. In the word of the Almighty, it says that Yasharallah is a strange kind of whore, family. For we pay our lovers to have their way with us. And that's what we're doing when we want to be citizens in a country, in a nation, no matter if it's the United States or anywhere across the globe. That's the same thing we're doing. What's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts on that, Brother Joshua?
Man, that brother looked like Mansa Musa or something like. But no, hey, for real though, man. The brother's speaking truth. You know what I'm saying? It has no value. You know what I'm saying? They cover up. They've been. I mean, it says it in the Tanakh, man. You know, they covered the faces of the judges. You know, they're real crafty. They're real crafty. He said 90%. What did he say? 90%.
Yeah, I think he said 90%.
Man, they own that. Is crazy, man. That right there in itself, man. That's a colonizer.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they've been doing that for a long time. What about you, Sister Earth Hill and Angel? What's your thoughts on that?
I agree with Brother Joshua. I really like this uncle here. I like when you play him. I used to listen to him for a while. Do you listen to Julius Malema as well?
Yes, I do. I listen. They're all in my algorithm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
We can hear you, Auntie.
Yep.
Yes, now I can. My internet was spinning. I'm sorry. Do you listen to Julius Malema?
Yes, I have him in my algorithm. I have him. So when I go into my YouTube, I see him come up all the time.
Okay, good. Yes. Yeah, they own pretty much everything. They own the Federal Reserve. They own the banking system all around the world. Like Brother Joshua said, we don't want to get your platform shut down, but you know that Rothschild, Alex Crowley, all of that stuff, with everything they've written, within those rules and laws, that to go and set up these banks in different countries, the whole setup to put the banks, and then you're going to start war and disenfranchise these countries. I don't want to get too deep into that, but now that he's saying they own 90%, it goes even deeper than that. You know, Syria was one of those countries where we're going to put the bank off this, that they rule in Syria, and then we go and disenfranchise this country and Somalia, this time in this place and this and that. It's a big plot. This
Absolutely.
I don't want to sound goofy and I don't like to get into that Illuminati stuff, like let it overwhelm me, but these things in the Masonic, because our families, Avia and mine, my family, they were or still is big in the Masonic. Like I had an uncle going to the 33rd degree or something, and that's a whole nother story. There's a lot of secret things and laws they have that is playing out before our eyes, and we think, oh, they're just starting a war because Syria is being bad or this person is being bad. It's been written centuries ago with these dark communities, what you call them, secret societies, what they were going to do, who are owned by these 90%. Yeah. So that's my take on it.
All praise. What about you, Sister Javier?
I agree with Earth and Brother Joshua on what the elder was saying. It's diabolical how they have orchestrated and organized this, and as the phrase is, they said nothing is as it seems, because there's always hidden agendas and hidden motivations and behind everything. And what they tell us is the reasoning behind something, there's another reasoning behind it. And just to kind of give an example, I remember years ago I had learned this, that sometimes when you are watching a program on TV or something, you'll find yourself all of a sudden that you feel the urge for a particular thing or a snack or something. And what they're saying is that in the background, they're playing an actual commercial for that thing that you suddenly have the desire for, but you're not consciously picking it up or seeing it, but your subconscious is picking up that ad that's playing behind the show that you're watching.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Add to that. Elder, I'd like to add to that. It's like the bio, what's those frequencies when they have subliminal in imprinted? You don't know, you can't hear with your natural ear what is in it, but there's certain subliminals imprinted or in what they place into it. So, like for example, for healing frequency, you may not hear the affirmations because it's a subliminal, but below that music intertwined in there, that those affirmations are being played with the naked ears can't hear it, but the subconscious, the spirit man can pick it up. Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Programming.
Absolutely. Yep. Programming at its finest. Yes. I got one more video that I'm going to play today, but we wanted to touch on this subject about citizenship and subjects for our people to have an awareness what we've been subjugated to. So with this last video that we're going to play, this is going to be the last one for the podcast today. But we will be back on Tuesday for Malak's Corner. But I'm going to play this video now so that we can stay tuned.
Which gives you the white people as Jews. Number two, you have an academic argument, which is now trying to exterminate the black history and make it white. So see what's happening here. Academically, by claiming the history of Egypt as white history, you have been able to remove black people away from innovation, from academics, from history, as the originators and the most ancient civilization on the face of the earth. You claim that history. Make Cleopatra white woman. Make the pharaohs white people. Make Moses taking the Israelites out of Egypt. Make them white. That whole movie, rubbish, scandalous narratives. So by taking away our history and by sitting at the door of religion, you are able to brainwash people that they're inferior to you because their civilization, without them, there's no civilization. Without them, there's no salvation. So the white people become the gatekeepers of your economy, your history, and your religious expression. It can't be more blatant than that. A person who steals your car.
And these same European, or so-called, as they say, white people, as he said, are the same ones that came up with the term citizen that we oblige ourselves to be.
Is much better than a person who steals your identity. At a moment of your unconsciousness, I come and I change your name. When you wake up, I give you a wrong name. And you can never trace again who you are. That's cruel. That's cruel that you walk past your mother's house and you not recognize her. Because I took advantage when you were not conscious. That I make you hate your own brother. That's cruel. Because I'm withholding information from you to tell you that this is your brother. Now, stealing identity cannot be more gruesome than that.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. Want more?
So instead of being obliging ourselves to be a part of the nation of Yasharala according to our ancestry, we're obliging ourselves to be citizens, to be subject. We'd rather be citizen and subject than to go declare ourselves in a system that we have been subjugated to who we are. So when we tell them who we are, we put it on record, then they have to call us by our heritage. So as we have to learn how to play this chess game with citizenship, use it to your advantage, go declare who you are, family. Go stand 10 toes down and be Yasharala. With that being said, family, we enjoyed you once again. Thank you to all the panel members. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for participation. And with that being said, family, this has been another episode of Let the Truth Be Told on Malak's Corner, and we'll be back again. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.